What's up, military millionaires? I'm your host, David Pere, and today I am co-hosted again by the beautiful Alex Felice. And we have my friend Adit on the show. Now, Adit is going to get a special intro because, he's my favorite seaman. Sailor, veteran. But no, so Adit, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that he basically saved my life from homeless people once. So we're gonna bring him on and say Adit is a house flipper, also a house hacker, and a multifamily guy who's kind of figured out. I say multifamily, I mean like the smaller multifamily. Found a really unique niche in San Diego that he's doing very well in, and it's been really cool to watch him grow over the last few years. But I always have to mention the fact that the last day I was living in San Diego, my car blew up and died. And when I say blew up, I mean like $6,000 or $7,000 worth of parts that I had warrantied out for a fuel pump that literally exploded and tore my entire fuel system apart. And I spent like 15 hours waiting on a tow truck, sleeping downtown with all my belongings in the car, trying to fend off homeless people because I couldn't leave the car because I was like, damn it, I've got all my crap in here. And Adit was the only person around who was willing to give me a 45-minute drive impromptu up to Oceanside and get me to a hotel room so I could figure out what to do with my car and my life. So I appreciate that. And I'm going to forever, put that out there that overall decent human being. So that's your intro. Nothing about real estate, just about how you saved me from homeless people. So welcome to the Military Millionaire Podcast, where we teach service members, veterans, and their families how to build wealth through personal finance, entrepreneurship, and real estate investing. I'm your host, David Pere, and together with my co-host, Alex Felice, we're here to be your no BS guides along the most important mission you'll ever embark on, your finances.
Vehicle 1, you're clear to depart friendly lines.
Roger, Vic 1, Oscar Mike.
Hey guys, if you're looking to take your investing, business, life, or just yourself to the next level, then I have something for you. The War Room Real Estate Military Mastermind Group is a mastermind group that meets weekly in small groups of 5 to 6 people to help you hold yourself accountable and really experience that growth. But we also have a monthly guest speaker that we bring in, and we've had guest speakers that talk about mindfulness, taxes. We're bringing in somebody to talk about marketing. We bring in very specific topics that will adhere to very broad, any kind of real estate investing or entrepreneurship that you want to do, and will really help you out. And we let you ask these speakers questions and get very personal with them. And then back to the small groups, weekly accountability for what you're trying to achieve, and just being surrounded by like-minded people. And they say your network is your net worth. I know that's an overused phrase, but I recommend that you check it out. So just shoot an email to wrmastermind@gmail.com. Once again, that's wrmastermind@gmail.com, and we'll send you some more information.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Excited to be here.
Of course. I like all the decorations you put on the wall for us back there. That looks good.
Yeah. I'm living on a job site, so I'm bouncing from project to project right now. And that's kind of why I have a very plain setup.
Living on a job site. So Adit has now become the homeless that he used to save me from. So
precisely.
Oh man. All right. Why don't you give the quick synopsis for how you got into real estate?
Yeah, totally, man. So 2 years ago, I got out of the Navy. I did what every person does when they get out of the Navy, used my GI Bill, smoked a lot of pot, did a whole lot of nothing. And then I discovered Bigger Pockets, and I started listening to the podcast. I got into the military to millionaire community, started learning a little bit about real estate. And what I did was I blasted out a cover letter and resume to every single real estate developer in San Diego, because I didn't want to be a house flipper. I didn't want to be a real estate agent. I had the audacity to want to be a real estate developer. So I blasted that out to every developer. No one replied. So I went back and followed up and pestered people, hunted them down. And eventually one guy took me up on his offer. I told him, hey, this is what I can do. I can fix things. I'm pretty decent at talking to people. I'd love to help you out, add value to your business in any way. So I started out doing small repairs for him on his rental properties, changing ceiling fans, unclogging toilets, dealing with his tenant troubles. that turned into helping manage his whole rental portfolio, about 43 doors now in San Diego, California, managing all his construction projects, then partnering on deals with him, lending back and forth, and then doing stuff on my own from there. So as a manager, partner, lender, or principal, I've done everything from single family flips, repositioned small multifamily, small lot subdivisions, house hacked, the whole nine. So been a good little ride thus far.
Very ambitious of you. The tenacity,
totally,
I like it. What are you doing now? What's your day-to-day now?
So right now, my day-to-day is managing some construction projects for the same developer and also looking for urban infill projects. So I've recently exited all of my stuff that I was working on, which was like a live-in flip and a small multifamily I repositioned. And I'm looking to redeploy that capital now into urban infill, which is basically like single family homes or small multifamily that are zoned in high density multifamily areas. So you can get a 4 unit and build 40 units, that kind of stuff.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know anything about that.
It's a lot of fun, and it's kind of like the answer to the problem in San Diego, right? A lot of people who are in San Diego end up out of state in the Midwest or Southeast, but instead, someone told me to chase what's hard. I think it actually might have been you, Alex, on one of your podcasts or something. It was on Bigger Pockets, and I think you might have said it once too. Like, chase what's hard. Don't go for the small, low-hanging fruit. So
that sounds harder than anything I would bother to do, but that is really good advice, and I say it all the time. Do what's hardest. I don't take it all the time, but glad I know that it's good advice for other people. I'm not taking it. But.
I love that you're like, that sounds too hard, but it's great advice.
The advice is sound. I'm just lazy.
Yeah, it's kind of what fell into my lap. But I mean, aside from that, I'm also doing a couple flips out of state now in South Carolina. And also always looking at flipping houses around here.
Can we just pause that's what just fell into my lap part and revert to where you like hounded every developer in the county for like months and then take that part out and say it didn't quite just fall in your lap, but all right, continue.
Okay. Yeah.
Take some credit where it's due, man.
Got lucky, man. A lot of it had to do with luck, but it's strange because like the more you put yourself out there, the more lucky shit happens to you. Oh yeah. So luck is real, but it only happens to people who are participating.
What's that phrase? There's like a quote about like luck is when like opportunity meets hard work or preparation or something like that. Like if you're looking for it, you're going to get lucky a whole lot more often than if you're just, and that can be applied to anything, right? I mean, if you're scratching the scratch offs at the gas station, you're going to win more than the guy who doesn't gamble, but I don't know that that's the best analogy.
Yeah, totally.
Luck for me is like gardening. Like you need the weather to be nice. It's pretty reliable, but like you can't predict it. So every time you get something that grows, it's like, it's kind of lucky.
So, okay. So give the quick overview on like what you're doing with I mean, your interesting little niche that you found in San Diego, which is cool because I've been able to see you grow and turn a profit in this. But you're right. You're definitely in one of those markets where a lot of people say either don't invest because it doesn't cash flow or the prices are too high or, taxes or tenants or evictions. Like, I mean, I didn't buy when I lived in California, and it wasn't necessarily because I think California is the worst. It was a culmination of things. But, I mean, there's a lot of people hindsight's 2020, I should have bought, but who would have known if I'd bought in 2019, what would have happened with my values in 2020, 2021. So. Yeah,
totally. I mean, it is a lot harder, right? So the way we make it work here in San Diego is we find assets that have an opportunity to add huge value, whether it's by adding units or significantly improving the asset to increase the income, and obviously picking them up at a steep discount. So some of the things that we do is like we get 4 units, for example, and we'll add 2 and then we'll refinance with a commercial loan and get all of our capital back because now we have a 6 unit. And that model is not new to anyone, especially anyone who does stuff like commercial multifamily and income-based valuation. We just increase the income by adding units instead of just making improvements and raising rents. So it's a combination of both those things, and it creates this powerful synergy. And in a coastal market, the equity figures are a lot more significant than maybe somewhere like the Midwest or Southeast.
Yeah, so you got to take on a bigger, a kind of a bigger burden, because it's much harder to add 2 units than it is to bump the rents a little bit, obviously. And so you take that bigger risk, but you get a much bigger nut. And that's interesting because, you think about it, people say, well, don't buy in California. And it's like, kind of like what we just talked about. It's like, I'm not going to go buy in California because I don't know the market. It's such an uphill battle. I'm going to go look for something easier. Right. But you're like, look, I'm here and there's problems in this market that need to be solved. And those problems are going to be more difficult, obviously, because it's going to take a lot more capital intensive. And oftentimes, I imagine the returns are kind of harder to get, right? Because it's a lot more people. So, but I love that you stuck with it and found that very creative, very big lift fix. You're like, look, this problem. I have a good solution to this problem. It's just harder than most people are willing to tackle. It's kind of like rehabs. Like some people only do lipstick rehabs. Some people are like me. I'm like, let me go find the house that got half burnt down because I know that I can take care of that, and I know that it's just going to scare most people off. So it's kind of that. I like that where you said, okay, I can't go after that low hanging fruit. I got to go after this big stuff. But if we take it down, it's got big margins.
Totally. And what's crazy is that you said it exactly. Every time I introduce myself to like a wholesaler or realtor, I tell them, hey, we kind of play in the gray area between stuff that's too big for the average flipper and it's too small for the big development company. So that's kind of where we play ball. And it's been a really good lane to be in.
Yeah, that makes sense too, because a big developer is not screwing around with 4 units, 6 units, and a flipper is not really, like you said, it's perfect. So
I don't know if this is going to take us off topic, but because I haven't done enough research to know, but SB9 and SB10, right? So California's got a couple bills out there trying to fix the low income housing and like from my understanding on super minimal research, i.e. headlines, just to be like, what is this crap I see floating around? California is looking to relax like some of the zoning rules as far as building units and building ADUs, and they're actually kind of opening the door in a way that would help you out. Is that the case? Like, how are some of those things changing that may help you guys out down the road?
Yeah, totally. I think it's a step in the right direction, but it's not where we need to be. It's no secret that California, the whole United States, right? But specifically California is in a very severe housing shortage. So the state is trying to take a step in the right direction by pushing these kinds of legislations. And we don't know right now, right? Same thing happened with ADUs 4 or 5 years ago when ADUs came out. Some jurisdictions are just catching up with the ADU laws. So we don't really know how it's going to play out, but basically the underlying message with SB9 and 10 is that you can subdivide any single family parcel at a ministerial level, so it doesn't require discretionary review. Basically, what that means is there's 2 types of real estate developments. There's by right and there's discretionary. By right is something that's supported by the base zoning and law that doesn't require the county or housing authorities discretion in approval. So you're allowed by right. For example, if you have zoning for 3 units and you have a single family home, you're by right allowed to have 2 more. But you're not by right allowed to subdivide that parcel, even if you have the minimum lot size. Like, let's say minimum lot size is 1,000 and your parcel's 3,000. That doesn't mean by right you get 3 parcels. That means you have to go through a discretionary review process. You have to actually appeal to city council. It goes up to the state, right? Because in California, the subdivisions right now are done at the state. And then it comes back down to the city, and it takes a long ass time. It takes about $60,000 per line, usually, that you want to draw in that parcel. It takes a lot of engineering surveying. So they're trying to bring that all down and give cities the authority to subdivide single family parcels. But there's a lot of stipulations and some, like it's got to be owner occupied, and it's got to be the same size for each parcel, and it can't be a parcel that was previously subdivided. So let's see, once the smoke settles, let's see how it plays out. But I do think that this type of legislation is exactly what California needs. We just need more of it, right? You gave us a little bite, but you give us the whole bone.
And that's crazy that you have to go to the state level to like subdivide or rezone. Like that's Yeah. No wonder it takes so long.
Yeah, totally.
Some guy in Sacramento is like, nope, you can't do that down on the Mexican border. Sorry.
Yeah. It takes a long time, and it's an arduous process.
Yeah, that's a lot of red tape. Wow. Like, I don't obviously know anything about California state law, so it seems like a lot to me.
California kind of wrote their rule book like, can we make this more complicated? Yes. Perfect. It's like, if you think about it, like, you know how like people in the military, they get like old and they're about to retire, and then they like create a GS position and they just kind of like move over. They like created this job for themselves after retirement. It's kind of what I feel like California does. They're like, I wish that I could do zoning even longer in this. You know what? Let's make me at the state level the requirement for this, just so that I have a job, and it'll make everyone else's life miserable. But I don't know.
You're not wrong, man. But that being said, like, for example, San Diego is taking a step further, right? So San Diego has created this new set of legislation called the Complete Communities Initiative, and they've basically like created a crazy high density bonuses. They're allowing us to bring a lot of affordable units in housing supply, and parcels where you could previously only build like 20 or 25 units, you can now build like 40. So that's a San Diego local thing. That's cool. Which was another step in the right direction. So California does have a lot of strict laws, right? And a lot of taxes and a lot of fees and a lot of things going against it. But we do in San Diego County now have, we're going into a direction of a more easier to build jurisdiction, which is great. So that's one good thing that we have going on for us.
Yeah,
that's good. You sound very optimistic. How does this play into, like, where do you see this going, your future? Because it sounds to me like you know the technical ins and outs of the area and the market. Do you look to scale towards bigger developments?
I do. So I want to take on these multifamily infill projects, but I'm not just restricting myself there. I'm also looking at doing smaller stuff out of state. Like we're taking on flips in South Carolina, looking at multifamily out of state as well. I grew up in North Carolina and New Jersey, so looking in the Northwest or Northeast and Southeast as well for multifamily deals. But that's kind of the direction I'm looking for is bigger stuff, but also stuff that's got huge equity spreads, a lot of room to add massive value, and projects that are fulfilling to take on, right? They require some sort of creative problem solving that other people aren't willing to take on. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
It's so easy. I'll do some multifamily in the Southeast with you. I'm looking every day.
Let's do it, man. I got folks in Winston-Salem, like I talked to you at Flip Hacking Live. So
I was just in Winston-Salem at a project that a friend of mine's buying. I know some multifamily projects in Winston-Salem. That's a good market.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I got a buddy who syndicates, and he's bought a 336 unit out there last year. And then he bought 2 buildings out. He's closing on 2 buildings out there now, like another 400 something units.
I'll put my feelers out there, man. If I see anything, you're going to be the first person.
That place is growing. Let's talk.
Yeah, for sure, man.
That's only 2 hours for me. Like I can definitely work that.
I'll be there over the holidays, so I'll give you a shout, man.
Okay, yeah, do it.
Yeah, just show up at his house.
Yeah, I will.
Don't do that. Don't do that. But if you're in Winston-Salem, let's meet up.
Yeah, definitely. We will, man.
The ADU side, right? People in California are always talking about ADUs, which, by the way, for people listening who've never heard of ADUs, it's additional dwelling unit. So it's like a mother-in-law suite or a guest house that you rent out. They've loosened up the laws a lot in California. What are some of the new, like, I've heard they've made it a little bit easier for that. Can you give a little bit of feedback on like kind of what you're seeing with ADUs as far as like price and timeline and complication and whatever?
Yeah, totally. So if I'm going to direct build an ADU, it's going to cost me personally between $200 and $215 a foot. Now, if you go get an ADU consultant, they're going to charge you like $285, $300 a foot. But I mean, I manage my own guys. I'm basically the general contractor in that scenario. But San Diego has now taken a step above the state laws of just one ADU and or one ADU and one JADU. They're kind of taking it on a case by case basis. I've seen, like, we had a 4-unit in Bay Park, San Diego, that they allowed us to have 2 ADUs on, 2 actual ADUs, not JADUs. So, but by right, the basic state law says if you have a single family home and you have the space and the setbacks to do it, then you can have 1 ADU and you can have 1 JADU, which is attached. So you can build like a 3-bed, 2-bath in the backyard, and then you can build and you could convert the garage into a studio. The only stipulation is that the JADU has to, if you have a JADU, that property has to be owner occupied, which is the only stipulation. So what I kind of, and I don't mean to go off track here, but what I have been preaching for people in San Diego using the VA loan is buy something that has room to add value, like adding an ADU. Never use your VA loan just to buy the pretty single family residence. That's my personal opinion, right? And something that I push heavily. Why would you go in 100% leveraged into something that has no room to add value or create equity? Buy a kind of semi-distressed, cosmetically distressed single family home that has a margin too thin for the average flipper. Use your VA loan to buy it. Add an ADU. And the thing I hear a lot is, I don't have the cash to build an ADU. Well, figure it out. Like, someone's going to lend on that, right? If you have a spread big enough, you're going to be able to get hard money and get most of the cash, or even all of the cash in a lot of cases, back out of the deal after you build the ADU. So don't be scared of things just because you don't have money, and don't use your VA loan to buy pretty houses ever.
You're messing up my American dream, Adit. I just want to buy all the fancy stuff on debt, 100% financed, and look cool.
You see, like, that's something that's kind of been going on, right? For decades in this country, is the American dream, white picket fence house, car. And it started at, let's go to college. Let's go to college by any means, right? Even if it means getting ourselves into a ton of debt, let's get any job and let's leverage as much as we can to buy the nice boathouse and car, right? Which it's now catching up to us, right? Our parents, they made it through. They made it through, but this generation, our generation, we can't do it, right? We have way too much leverage, and people forgot how leverage works, right? It's not imaginary money. You still owe that money back. The only time that you should be using leverage is for assets, right? That's the fundamental assets versus liabilities thing. So that's the real American dream, is using leverage, right? Because we're even privileged to have high leverage in this country. Places like Mexico, some places in South America, you can't go get 80% leverage. You can't get a 20% down loan. We have 0% down loans. Those don't exist in those markets. So we need to be using those to create wealth, not put ourselves in debt.
Man. You're messing with my American dream, Adit. I love, on that point though, I love that we have such wealth in this country, that we have and such low debt that we have instilled in our culture that everybody needs to go live on their own at 18. And if you're 30 and you live in your house and you're with your parents, then you're somehow a loser. Whereas everywhere else on the planet, well, for 12,000 years of human civilization, people have lived basically with their family because they couldn't afford to move out. And it also turns into some surprising house benefits, like you have a support system. You have a family support system, and then you can develop family wealth, which is what a lot of people still do in a lot of other countries today. But in America, we shame people for living it with their family. And then we come up with creative new terms for having people live with you to create wealth, which is, we call house hacking, as if it's some new thing. And I'm like, no, it's the old thing. Living on your own at 18 or living on your own at 20, just because. That's the new thing. And it loads people up with debt that they don't need, and they buy retail homes that they stretch to afford. It doesn't make them any money for 10 or 15 years. And yeah, I mean, we're privileged to have low interest debt. We have a very sophisticated banking system in this country, very, very sophisticated, although it crashes every 10 years because it's not that sophisticated. It's not good. It's not that good, but it's pretty good. So I love that, and I kind of mostly agree with you. Debt is a wonderful tool, especially in this country where you can get it at 2, 3, 4% right now. I mean, even if you can get it at 6 or 8%, you're at 80%. You have a product that most of the world is unavailable from most of the world. So it's a really good mindset to have about debt. It's a privilege.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, man.
Yep, I agree. So what's the plan now? Or actually, how about this? Can you give us some examples, some numbers of one or two of the ones you've done?
So the most recent one that I exited was with another War Room Mastermind member and podcast guest, Donald Appleberry. This was a 3-unit property in Imperial Beach, California. We picked it up in January 2021. It was a mismarketed 3-unit. The realtor who listed it just didn't sell the potential. She didn't sell that it had a massive front yard where you could build an ADU, that the rents were severely below market. And it was like, for all intents and purposes, it was a turnkey deal. It was ugly, but it was rentable, right? So we picked this thing up, found out that we could combine VA entitlement at a barbecue at Dave Pere's house. So shout out Dave for that. And we did that. We did just that. So we decided we were going to combine entitlement, picked up this 3-unit. Right around the time that we picked it up, San Diego went into one of the most restrictive eviction moratoriums in the country. So we were unable to own or occupy it. We started a conversation with the lender, explaining to them our situation. They said, hey, don't worry about it. As long as you have a documented reason that you didn't own or occupy it, you'll be all right, right? Because we can't ask tenants to leave at this point because the law literally doesn't allow us to. So, that ended up being kind of a stressful situation because I had put up my condo for rent, wanting to move to my new property in Imperial Beach and surf every day and live that beach life, but couldn't do that, right? So instead, we poured everything we could into the property. We ended up completely doing an exterior reskidding. We raised the rents as much as the law would allow, which just ended up being just enough. And we were going to start the permitting process for an ADU, which we were going to then own or occupy. And the market just went nuts. So we picked that thing up for $1 million, ended up exiting it at 1.35 7 months later. And the only reason we were able to do that, and I want to be very, very clear about this, is because of the San Diego eviction moratorium, which, by the way, I believe is still in effect. It will not go away until California ends the COVID state of emergency. So that's the only reason we didn't own or occupy this. I don't want me telling you about how I made $350,000 with the partner gross profit off of a VA loan deal be your excuse to not own or occupy. Because what happens is when people don't own or occupy VA loans, the VA and lenders are going to catch on to it and it's going to ruin the benefit for everyone.
Yep.
So we need to make sure that just buy a house hackable property that has room to add value and move into it, because guess what? Now your personal overhead gets combined with your investment. So your personal overhead, and I still live by this, right? By the way, I'm living on a job site right now. This is a completed home that I'm sitting in that's going to be up for sale next month. I've combined my personal overhead with my investment, eliminated my personal overhead by living in my investment, which is what house hacking is. So go ahead and own or occupy those, create massive value, and then refinance or exit them or do it again. So that was a really good deal, though. The market, it was right timing. It was right execution. But yeah, would love to do 5 more of those if I could.
So to clarify, 2 things. One, the entitlement piece, for those of you who didn't catch that, the reason there's different reasons you can combine benefits. But in this case, what happened was 2 different guys. One is an agent who's making a good amount of money, but doesn't have documented tax returns to back it up. So he doesn't have the income to qualify for a mortgage, but he has not touched his VA loan. Another gentleman has the income and not the full entitlement. So you combine his entitlement, his income, you're able to purchase the property. They qualify for $1 million loan. And then, they intended to move into the vacant unit and house hack. And the city of California, or the state of California, was like, nobody's allowed to move out of your house. And they're like, we have nowhere to live now. What do you want? And so definitely not, don't go out there and try to, cause mortgage fraud and stuff, but sometimes stuff happens. And it worked out, I would say, at least fairly well. $350,000 gain on a 0 down 7 months. I'll take that return.
Yeah, results not typical for sure, but if you look for mismarketed opportunities, like that was on MLS, right? And not all of that gain was from the market, right? A lot of that was earned equity, and it was calculated earned equity. So the market was just a big bonus. It would have still been a juicy, fat, beautiful deal. And it was on MLS. It was sitting on there for 60 days and no one picked it up. So before you guys like catch yourselves griping about not being able to find deals, the market's too competitive, look at what's already in your face. Like if you're not looking, you're not going to find them. Right now in San Diego, there's a 4-unit mixed use property being advertised as a single family home on MLS. So they're still out there. They're still out there.
I have a friend in DC who goes on Instagram and he just posts all the mislisted properties in the MLS. And he's like, this is a duplex listed as a single family. This is a duplex listed as a single family. Here's another duplex listed as a single family. And he's like, these are $150,000 underpriced all day long. And it's just because the realtor just didn't pay attention when they listed it. And then there it sits.
Did you see the one he posted the other day? That's why I died laughing when you brought him up. It's a picture of a kitchen and it's got like lines of Coke on a mirror sitting.
Oh, yeah.
Picture.
I saw that on the internet.
I'm sure that one's probably like, like kind of a made up one, but he had me rolling. He's like, yep, not what you want listing photos to look like. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, it's just funny you say that because I know you're a second person I know that says there are deals written in the MLS that people miss because they assume the realtor listed it right, and it doesn't happen. Obviously it happens most of the time, but if you go through those deals, if you take the time and go through deals that are on the market 60 days at this point in the market cycle and just be like, why? Then I bet you there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, we locked one up for $45,000 under asking price last month. We ended up walking because they said they had gotten permits when they rebuilt the entire duplex after it burned halfway to the ground. And then we went to the city and the city was like, there was no fire. And I was like, I didn't say anything. Like, I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. And I went back to the seller and was like, yo, I want 30,000 off. And they were like, we already gave you 45. I was like, yeah, well, you gave me 45,000 off when telling me that was permitted. Like, I'm not trying to play this game if I'm not getting a big discount. But yeah, it had been on the market for 110 days. Called the guy and said, hey, you're listed at 230. I'll give you, we went like 150, came back at like 185. But
that's another thing, right? Like, and you want to be careful with this because you don't want to get the reputation of being the low baller, but get on some of these on market deals that have been sitting there, like Alex and Dave said, 60 days or even 45 days, and see what would it make sense to you. Like, all right, this deal is listed for $405,000, but it only makes sense to me at $365. Shoot them an offer for $365. It doesn't cost any money to make an offer, and if you back it up, right, especially if you're direct to seller's agent, which I think you should be in these scenarios, just call the seller's agents and say, hey, would your client accept an offer for this much? And this is why I would offer it, because it's going to cost me this much to rehab it, this much to finance it, etc. So here's my best offer. Would they entertain something like that? No? All right, cool. On to the next one. This one's 500. It makes sense to me at 445. Send it to them. Even a wholesaler sent me a deal for $485,000. I went back and I told him, hey, I really appreciate you keeping me in mind. This only makes sense to me at $435,000. And lo and behold, he went for it. He said, all right, yeah, we can make it happen for 435. Shoot your shot, man. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, there's so many times too. Like this business is just, it's like the third time that somebody offers you that, you're the fourth person to offer them that amount. 365. He's like, no, F you 365. No way. And the second guy is like, oh, again, no, F you. Third one, he's like, Jesus, no 365. And then you know what happens in these people's lives or what their mood they're in or whatever. And then you come along, you're like 365. He's like, well, Jesus, I might as well. I don't want to get a fifth one. I might as well just take it now. And so sometimes it's just timing. It's not just, you just never know, but you have to ask.
Yeah, totally.
Especially if it's been in the market for a while. That alone says, in this point of the cycle, if something's been on the market 45, 60 days, they've been offered. they've been a lot of offers and they've said no. So it's like, they're not getting their number. They're at this point, they're not getting their money. So like, you just got to catch them at that point. You're just trying to play the magic timing to see when they're sick of waiting. And they're just like, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah. And you got to follow up, right? Keep following up with those people because chances are you're not going to get it on the first shot. Same thing with me scoring this position with that developer. I hit him up like 4 or 5 times before he finally invited me to the job site. You have to follow up consistently.
Well, yeah, especially for networking like that. Networking, people say networking is a trade of value, but really, I don't look at it at all like a trade of value. I look at networking like people investing in people. And so everybody wants to be around somebody around who's going to work hard and try hard and is committed. And so I'm like, yo, you have to be at least as committed as me. So if I show up every day, I need to know you're going to show up every day. So if you show up every day without me even before I even know you, like you're begging me to show up to work, it's like, of course you're hired.
Yeah, totally.
I can't get the guys I pay to show up. You're going to show up like, anyway, let's go. Let's be friends for a long time.
That was a really good way to put it. And it really hit home for me because recently I've been reading all of Nassim Taleb for the first time. And I started with Skin in the Game. And it just it all just made sense, it made a lot of sense. And that's what it is, like he said, it's not a value exchange, but you're still presenting some kind of value, right? You have to make yourself valuable. And
I don't mean to say that it's not about value, but I mean, I look at it, I don't look at it as a transaction to trade. I look at it as an investment. So again, I'm an investor. I look at everything, every relationship, I look at all as an investment in some aspect of my brain. So I say, okay, how much time and energy and resources am I invest into this person? Is that person going to get better over time? Is that a relationship that's going to, bring fruits of the labor that I put into it of some sort? It doesn't always have to be monetary, but it's like, sometimes you just want to help somebody. It's like, okay, I'll help this guy, but I have to know he's at least going to want it, that he at least wants to help himself more than I can help him. So if I see him doing that, it's like, oh, you're a good value. It's more like this. I'll give you a cynical answer, right? It's like, if I look at somebody who I know is going to make it, I'm like, let me tie myself to them so that I can ride their coattails on the way up. It's the same exact thing. Man. Oh, say it again.
I said, big time, man. That's exactly what it is.
It's the same thing. So it's like, you look at somebody as it's not to say there's no value exchange, but if I look at somebody and say there's value in that person, then I want to invest in them.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is like, you just gotta go into a relationship thinking about like what's in it for the other person, right? Like you gotta at least come off that way, because I'll tell you right now, like, the more the things grow, the more people reach out to me asking for, pick your brain, mentorship, so, and a lot of times it's like, I'll tell you this, if your first message to me is an ask, you're probably not going to get a response. It's like, I don't know who you are. At least like hey, I'm so-and-so. I like, this is, whatever. But like, it's, like Adit was like, hey, I'd like to work with you and help you. He wasn't like, hey, can you just like, let me, or, buy me coffee and tell me what to do. And then you'll get nothing from me. Thanks. So
what was your reach out like, Adit? When you say, hey, I reached out to these people, what did you say? And how did you contact them? What medium?
So I contact them over biggerpockets.com. All right. Okay. All messages over BiggerPockets. And then I took it to LinkedIn for those of them who had their LinkedIns. And then some of them even had their phone numbers on social media. So I texted them the whole 9, right? But basically it went something like this. Hello, blank. This is Adit Shah. I'm a recently discharged Navy veteran. I'm super interested in real estate. And I have dreams of being a real estate developer and making a big impact in my community. I think I can be extremely valuable to your business because I know basic handyman skills. I'm really good at talking to people, and I can work for hours on end without any reward or satisfaction because I was in the military. Right? I'm all about the delayed. I'm all about the delayed gratification game. And I would love to help you on your job sites or with your day-to-day tasks that you're having trouble balancing so you can go on and do bigger and better things in your business. And here's my contact information, and let me know a good time for us to meet. Something along those lines, right? And I'm actually going to take that letter and I'm going to post it on my blog soon so people can see. And then it included my resume, right? Like it included an actual resume. Like I tried hard on this thing, right? I was a textbook try hard, resume, the whole nine, cover letter, and then just relentless follow up. Because remember when I started, I said I had the audacity to want to be a real estate developer. Like we have the audacity to want financial freedom, want to be multifamily investors or house flippers or wholesalers or house hackers, whatever. That's not normal, right? The normal thing to do in the world is to go to college and sell your time for 40 years. If you expect for your life to go differently, you need to do extraordinary things to achieve those results. It's not granted, it's not given, it's not normal, right? You have to have a certain level of tenacity and, like I say, audaciousness to want those things. And you have to back it up with your actions. And you have to back it up with your desire as well.
I love it.
Dude, I love your intensity right now.
I love that you mentioned the piece about, I was in the military, so I can work for a long time with no reward. And I love that both because it's hilarious and ironically true. But I have said something similar before where it's like, I mean, I essentially, like, while building the whole military millionaire thing, like I was paying to build it for the first almost 2 years. And people are like, well, why? I'm like, I don't, at first I had no idea, but, and it's like, I have attributed a few times though, that a lot of it, I think, is that makes service members successful in real estate or entrepreneurship or whatever, is that almost any of those endeavors, the first while, I mean, anywhere from a couple months to a couple years, you're putting out a ton of effort and getting almost no reward. And service members do have a very ornate, like, patience for that, because you work long hours, you deal with, like, hey, you're going to be here at 2 a.m, even though we can't tell you why you're going to be here at 2 a.m. And really, you don't need to be here till 5. And so, like, you get good at entertaining yourself and putting up with, like, not getting paid extra for doing things that, most people would think are, like, insane. And so then you're like, well, shoot, if I'm going to work for 6 hours doing nothing on a Saturday or standing a 24-hour post, like, I mean, at least now I'm doing it for myself. It's almost more rewarding. I don't know. I've felt that way before, where I'm like, Marine Corps trained me for this. Standing duty is way harder than filming 20 videos.
And, the biggest thing the military taught me is that, like, each person's journey is his or her own. Like, and this is something that I struggled with, because, like, for the longest time, I was like the hardest working sailor, like sailor of the quarter, try hard, textbook try hard guy, right? And I ended up doing 6 years and getting out. So that's a different story of how that ended. But, I was that guy, and I would see my peers passing me up, getting promoted. I'm like, I know I'm working harder than this guy, but I'm not getting promoted. A lot of people fall into the trap of crying about it. Like, oh, this isn't fair. I didn't deserve this. But I learned that, what? If I put my blinders on and only focus on me and making myself better, what's coming to me is coming, right? And I just have to consistently put in these compounding actions to achieve the result that I want. So instead of worrying about X, Y, and Z getting promoted before I do, I just need to make sure I'm doing these consistent sets of actions every single day. And eventually it's going to come to me. I don't care about anyone else. And strangely enough, this is the reason why I got super into jujitsu as of last year. It's the same thing. Like, I could be training 3-4 times a week, and guys like John Lalonde, who's another podcast guest and War Room member, are going to crank it out and pass me up every time, even though he trains hard too. But he's just better than me, right? There's going to be people who are better than you, or it seems like they're better than you, I should say. And they're going to pass you up, and they're going to do better than you in the short term. But as long as you keep putting those consistent actions in and you decide what you want, you know what? I decide that I want to be a blue belt in a year and a half. It doesn't matter if someone else gets promoted before I do. It doesn't matter if someone else gets better than I do. As long as I keep that consistency and I start this effect of compounding actions to achieve that desired result, it's going to come, and same thing with real estate.
Yeah. Consistency is powerful.
John Lalonde is a sissy for starters.
I love that. I didn't even have to talk shit. I love it.
He knows it. It's not even news. All right. Everybody listening already knows that. They think, oh yeah, John Lalonde, he's a sissy.
I'm gonna crop out that clip and just put it on Instagram.
Yeah,
of Alex Felice.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on my Instagram. It's gonna be my opener. It's gonna be my tagged post, pinned post.
He'll love it. He'll eat it up.
Dude, did we talk about Nassim Taleb in Orlando?
I don't think we did, man. I don't think we did.
He's my hero. I don't go a day without quoting some of his wisdom. He's the smartest guy walking planet Earth.
There's a
dude. You know,
I just expect there.
I've got the Nassim pill, man. I started with Skin in the Game, and I'm reading Anti-Fragile now, and it's I start
with Skin in the Game. Anti-Fragile is my favorite book of all time.
I'm gonna be talking about it with you when I come see you in North Carolina, because I'll be done with it by then, hopefully. And dude, it's Nassim Taleb. For anyone who has not read any of Nassim Taleb's stuff, stop what you're doing right now. If you're driving, pull over, get on Audible, use that 1 credit for any of his books. I read Skin in the Game and loved it. And it makes a lot of sense, not just to life, or not just to real estate, but to life. And that's another thing that I kind of like harp about, is like, don't let real estate just consume you. Like, focus on being an overall better person. Learn about economics, learn about the fundamentals of business, and beyond that, learn about history and, science and anything.
I bet you we share a big reading list. We should talk about that.
Yeah. Well, dude, I just joined your book club. So
okay, yeah. I post just about everything I read on there, so I try to be active. Let's get a little more. People are interacting a little more.
Yeah, totally. That one, I saw that you're going to read Infinite Jest, which I'm kind of scared of.
You should be scared of it. It is deadly difficult. Anybody who's listening to this, David, is this going to come out before January? Let's talk about it real quick. And January 1, I'm going to read Infinite Jest. I've already read it. It is probably the most influential fiction book of my life at this point. I'm not a big fiction reader, but I do like heavy literature, like human informed literature, not just not like sci-fi or fiction for the sake of fiction. This is a tough book. It's a long book. That's why I want to do it in a group. There's going to be about 15 of us. Highly recommend it. It is a book about a critique of American culture. I'm very excited. You should do it with me. Don't be a sissy.
Me and David will do it with you. I'll sign him
David
up too.
David is not up for the challenge.
David was one of the first people to say he would do this stupid read all of Alex's books in 2022 challenge thing.
I was gonna do like 11 rereads in 2022, and 5 of them were gonna be all in Nassim's books. But
honestly, none of this conversation matters, because Alex and I have a strict belief in like not self-promoting on the show. So I'm gonna have to pull all the book club stuff out, because we can't.
I'm self-promoting what? People to learn
your free crap.
To read books that challenge them. Actually, you know what?
Communist, fascist.
To bring it back to the beginning of this conversation, the thing that makes Infinite Jest so valuable is that it's hard, and it kind of walks you through this meta about
metaverse.
It talks you through this meta about exactly what you said at the beginning of the conversation. Like, what's hard is valuable, even though you don't want to do it because it's fucking hard. And doing what's easy is pleasurable and fun and entertaining. But it's self-defeating. And so the whole point of the book is long to be long for the purpose of like I said, that meta of like, hey, it's valuable because it's hard.
Okay. So you say hard fiction. Is this like 1984 style fiction where it's like predictive, or is this like Ayn Rand where it's like a story that tells like about like a certain topic, or like what kind of fiction are we talking here?
It's absurdist. It's a prediction of American culture 25 years in the future, written 25 years ago.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
I should have known. Like, if it's absurd, obscure, and then old, Alex is probably all
obscure.
About it.
It's obscure. It's weird, and it's written very, very bizarre. Like, it's written in a really weird prose, so it's kind of wordy in a weird way. He makes up words and stuff, so it's a little bit difficult.
Are you reading hard copy this time through, or are you doing audiobook again?
I'm gonna read the physical version this time.
It was still fine on audio though?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Sometimes some of these books, there's only a few books that I haven't been able to do on audiobook, and they're all Alex books. But it's, it's things like, well, I ended up making it through Thus Spoke Zarathustra, but I had to slow it down. And then like, what's the other two or three? They're all psychology books or philosophy books. Like those are the ones where I'm like, God, I can't read this at like my normal speed. I got to slow it back down to 1x. So, because there's like hard books that you can still read fast, but then there's hard books that you're like, oh my God, I can't keep up with what the heck this guy's saying.
Yeah. Like Thinking Fast and Slow, that one I had to 1x it, man.
Yeah.
That was a hard read for me, but that was a really good book.
Yeah. We're
really good book.
Meditations was another one, just because it's not like a storyline. It's like different, like just totally disconnected thoughts. And so it was like trying to listen to it fast. I was like, by the time I comprehend a thought, I've missed two. So yeah.
Meditations was good.
Yeah.
I love when a book holds up for 1800 years. You're like, man, that dude knew some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Or there was just no other competing books, but no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, you can see it now in books. Like if you look at the books that are released each year, 99.9% of them are garbage nonsense that never needed to be written. They barely need to be a blog. Yeah, perfect example.
Yeah. Lost in the noise.
and that gets worse as books become easier to read, produce, consume. You can do ebooks now, audio only. So, but that doesn't mean that there's still some books that are written today that'll last. And it's just harder to get. That's why I try not to read books that are less than
Goodnight Moon lasted.
I try to 50 years is usually like my first. I will read books newer than that, but that's usually where I try to get to 50 years older.
Here's an odd one, Alex, that I'm just curious about before we bring this back around on subject, just because I don't know if you've read it. It seems like it might fit. Have you read the Napoleon Hill? Was it Dancing with the Devil or
Outwitting the Devil?
Outwitting the Devil. Dude, you should read that one.
Outwitting.
I think you would enjoy it. So here's the premise. Napoleon Hill wrote it and then was like, people are going to think I'm out of my freaking mind. I'm never going to publish this. And then like he died. And then like his family was like, holy shit, we're never going to publish that. And then like when his family died, like the last person was like, to press, and passed away. And so like it made it. But like the whole book is like, it's kind of trippy. Like he wrote it as like this, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like him like talking about like selling his soul to the devil. And like, I don't know. I think you'd find some interest in it just because it's like the story behind it being like one of these books that was like never really intended to see the light of day.
Yeah, that does interest me.
So.
I will say about Napoleon Hill, he's the reason why I did that thing where I blasted like all the developers. Because in Think and Grow Rich, there's a story about this guy named Barnes. His last name's Barnes, and he chucks his last penny to buy a train ticket to go to Edison's factory in New Jersey and go into business with him. And ends up like getting a job sweeping the factory floor, and then ends up in a sales position, and then ends up being the best salesman for one of Edison's inventions that everyone thought was going to flop. And then ends up becoming a partner with Edison for that invention and selling it. So that's kind of what's like planted the seed in me about trying to go add value to someone who's doing exactly what you want to do. And not just like, hey, I'll help you, I don't know, like shred papers in your office. Like, no, I will go to your tenant's house and unclog the toilet, right? I will get this unit ready for turnover. I'm on my hands and knees scrubbing the floor. That type of shit.
I mean, again, the military is pretty good about training people to like stir poo. So what's the difference between stirring poo and unclogging a toilet? And you stirred, if you've stirred burning poo for the military, like, hey, tenant's toilet's pretty nice.
Yeah, the military does have a good way of humbling you by giving you just jobs that are beneath everybody, and then it's like, hey, you deal with it.
You waxed the floor in the wrong direction. Do it again. Oh.
I do wonder, to your earlier point about like we're the college debt nation right now. I don't have any college debt, thankfully. I didn't even have that mindset when I was a kid. When I was younger, I wasn't going to go into debt for college. That seems crazy. It's the norm now, and I understand that. I wonder if it entitles people to think that they're like, I got this good job, I got this college degree, now I deserve some kind of pay, or I deserve some kind of some sort of job above what I normally would get. And just the world doesn't always work out that way by any means.
No, I mean, it's got to be merit based, right? So if you spent $200,000 getting a communication degree at a private school, and you didn't do the smart thing, go to community college first and go to a public school, and you end up making $3,000 a month, that goes back to skin in the game and balance and getting out what you put in, right? And it's really like mind blowing to me, because when I'm reviewing tenants' applications for the rentals and seeing like $250,000 in debt, $100,000 in debt, $4,500 salary, $3,500 salary a month. Like, why? Don't do that. Don't think that you have to go do that. You don't have to do anything.
And worse, then people complain. They say the system is broken when they're like, I got a job making this $40,000, $50,000 a year, all this debt. I'm like, but people don't look at themselves and say, the society told me to do. I was very lucky, and you're very young in life. I realized I'm like, through no fault of their own, no malice, that my parents are going to give me bad advice, right? Society is going to give you bad advice. Go to school, get a job, save money, buy a house. Like, those are the 4 core American dream. Like you said right from the beginning, it's like, that's that right there, the plan that my generation, and it sounds like your generation, were taught as the rules for success. That is bad information. And just because everybody tells you to do it, it's like, you're going to get in a position where you're going to have all this debt. You're going to have a low paying job. You're going to have no real skills. The only thing you're going to have is this credential that you essentially paid for. Instead, it's not a statement of talent or experience. It's just credentials. And then, so you're like, how come these two things don't add up? And it's like, yeah, you messed up because you believed the system. The system's not, it shouldn't have told you that, but that's life, right? So
yeah, totally.
And now you throw in, you've got.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, now you throw in that you've got people going and doing the exact same thing with the assumption that their school is going to get forgiven. Therefore, who cares? And they're just setting themselves up for even more hardship if that doesn't happen.
Well, and they have the same problem because, even if that guy got absolved $50,000 in student debt, if it's all of it, it's like, okay, sure, but once you get a little older, you realize the $50,000, the hits, the swings, they're going to come and go in life. $50,000 is a big chunk, for almost everybody. But it's going to come and go no matter what. So whether your student loan is absolved, it's like, that's not going to change. It's not going to change the trajectory of your life in any dramatic fashion. It might feel important now, but it's not. $50,000 is going to come and go multiple times in your life. And if you do well in life, it's going to come. $50,000 going to come and go a lot of times. Yeah. So yeah, the people who are not, they're getting that freebie. It's like, you're not untouchable. You got one lucky swing, but life is long, and learning that hard work and learning that humility and taking those jobs that you don't want and learning that you are entitled to anything. That's a much, much more valuable thing than that. $50,000 ain't gonna, $100,000 absolvation of student loan debt is not going to change their lives as much as they think. It's just good political posturing.
Yeah, totally. And it all goes back to that. It's a mindset that's translated across everything in America. Even people who are looking to get into real estate, they're looking to pay someone $50,000 to teach them about real estate, right? One of those like mastermind guru things. Now, granted, there's a couple of them out there who may or may not be legit, right? Like I've never paid someone that amount of money to teach me anything, but the people that do, they want that instant gratification, right? Like they want to pay someone $20,000 to teach me what I need to know about real estate so I can go make 100. Same thing with college. I'm going to pay $50,000 to get through college and I deserve a job. No, like, let's take it back a notch. Before people were doing all this crazy shit, there's something called apprenticeships. If you wanted to go learn something, you had to go on your hands and knees and scrub that guy's floor to watch him do it. or just be in his presence, right? And that's kind of how I took a stab at development. I took the apprenticeship model, and we need to bring that back and bring back that mentality. If I want to go do something, why don't I go work for someone who's doing it for free, by the way, right? If you get a paid internship or, paid apprenticeship, good on you, but don't expect anything. The knowledge and the experience alone is going to be worth a lot, right? Like when I went into my first solo flip, I already knew exactly what I was doing. I already had the resources I needed. I already had the financing I needed, just because I had that apprenticeship with the developer. So that gets translated across everything. Get rid of that instant gratification mindset and take the hard route, because the hard route is going to be the one that sticks and pays you for life.
Yeah, and what people don't realize, the people who don't want to do that, they think, well, the system's unfair. And I'm like, yeah, it is unfair. But the thing that you don't realize is, dude, you're competing against Adit. And you can sit there and tell me what kind of salary you deserve because what your school is or all these things, but Adit is going to go do it for free. And he's going to kick your ass. And he'll get paid later, and he'll get paid a lot more, and then he'll have the skills while you're sitting there waiting to find somebody who you think deserves, or that deserves you to come work for them, kind of thing. And so it's not so much that people go, "Oh, change the system." I'm like, change the system all you want, but there's always going to be people like Adit who's going to go out there and he's going to kick your ass. He's just going to do it. And if while you're sitting there arguing about salaries, somebody will come along and be like, "I'll do it for free," because I see it as valuable, and I can make the sacrifice because you probably don't, like you said, you live in a business house, right? An asset. You're not buying fancy stuff. What kind of car you drive? You drive a piece of shit.
I drive a 07 Toyota Tacoma.
No, that's an expensive vehicle, actually.
I got it well below retail. So yeah.
The Tacomas, they never go down in value, apparently.
Toyota is actually the top brand for retaining value.
Yeah,
the one exception theoretically being Tesla, but not enough data to support it. And I think it's just because there's still limited supply. But Toyota over time has held value better than anything else.
But yeah, I love that mindset. Just go do it. You're competing against people who, there's a lot of people who are just unwilling to compete with you in that way. And
they're going to lose.
Good on you.
Yeah, totally, man.
All right. If an E1, E2 walked up to you looking for advice, life advice, right? Getting out of the military, in the military, whatever. What's the one thing you would tell them? What do you wish you knew?
Decide right now, do you want to be ordinary or do you want to be extraordinary? Do you want to just go through the motions and do your 4 and get out? Or do you want to try to excel in life and leverage your military experience into something that's going to pay you forever, right? I think that the military is the most golden opportunity in America right now. You go for 4 years. If you end up hating it, you get a free degree at the end of it. And more than free degrees, you get $3,000 a month in San Diego for 36 months to go to college. And then on the side, go work for a developer for free because you're already getting money from the military, right? So what I would say to that person is, 1, save every single penny. 2, the guys who you think are cool right now are not going to amount to shit 5 years from now. And 3, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So just because you hate the military, but you're passionate about real estate, if you forgo your military responsibilities, that's going to carry over to the rest of your life. Be excellent in everything that you do. Even if you hate the military, you signed that dotted line, do what you got to do. And when you get out, the world is yours, but make sure that you always hold yourself to that standard of excellence. Like, I hated the military I'll say it. I didn't like it. I did not enjoy the military, but I still did what I had to do. And I still tried to be number 1 there.
Yeah, that's huge advice.
Dude, Adit is dropping serious wisdom.
Dude,
how old are you?
You can see it. Oh, yeah.
26.
Yeah, dude, this guy who's listening, you got to follow this kid.
Thanks, man.
That
means a lot from Alex Felice.
Well, I know wisdom. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, humility too.
That's good. That's good wisdom. How you do one thing is how you do everything. I say that a lot. That's good wisdom.
I like
and
that
people
one.
They don't recognize it in themselves.
Resource. What's a resource that you recommend anybody looking to get into real estate investing, business, book, course, website?
So, I mean, everyone here knows about From Military to Millionaire, but in the past year, in 2021, and I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying this to impress upon you what's possible for you. From the connections that I've made in the From Military to Millionaire Facebook group in 2021, I've made $250,000, right? Just from that. And I've also now setting up flips out of state in South Carolina, setting up a couple of other business, all from Military to Millionaire. Okay. So any network that you can get plugged into, especially from Military to Millionaire, get plugged into there and don't just be on the sidelines, participate, ask questions. Like all those people who go in there and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. Like, one, Google it first, but two, bring questions that actually require some creative thinking, right? Because when I go on there and I see a question that's like, I don't know, like the city is requiring me to re-pour footings on something that was already permitted and I don't know what to do. Is it going to work? You know, I'm going to hop in there and I'm going to, because that's not an easily Googleable question. I'm going to go on there and I'm going to be like, oh, this is good. Let me think about how I can solve this problem, right? Because I get off on solving problems. So ask thoughtful questions and participate and get plugged into From Military to Millionaire and Bigger Pockets, of course. Those are two great resources.
And yeah, you're right about the questions thing, because sometimes people go in and they ask a question and you just kind of want to be like, did you like type that into Google? Because like I don't do it in that group, but like when I was in the military, I would have people ask questions that were like really simple questions and they'd like email them over and I would go and I would type their like copy paste their question into Google and then snip the answer being the top piece on Google and email it back so that they could see that I literally pasted it in Google, and I would type back like, this wasn't that hard.
There's a service that does that for you, David. Do you know this? It's a website called Let Me Google That For You.
Oh, that's funny.
And then it gives you a link, and the link takes them to Google and puts their question in Google and then clicks it for them and then shows them the results. Yeah, when somebody asks me a silly question, I do the same thing. I'm like, I literally go to Let Me Google That For You and send it to them.
That's amazing. I need to do that.
That's awesome.
I got you, fam. I got you.
Oh man. Yeah. Cause we'd be like in the recruiting office, my Marines would hate it. They'd ask some silly question. I'd be like, Google knows. I'd be like, damn it. I was hoping you'd know. I'm like, maybe I do, but you need to know where to find answers.
Adit, that's really good advice, because a lot of my internet community and value that I've been able to exchange has come from not necessarily content, but going into active forums where people actually are and having real interactions with them and trying to give them, like you said, not simple answers, not, hey, I posted to say I posted, but like, hey, look, that's a difficult question that somebody's not going to be able to find. Like somebody's gonna have to take the time to answer that and think about it through. And I like that too, like having nuanced conversations on the internet. It's not good on Facebook and Twitter, but in forums and in groups, sometimes it very much can be. Totally. I think it's very valuable, and I've had a lot of value come from doing just that. So I highly recommend that as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Adit, thanks for joining us, man. I know we tried to record this last week, but both Alex and I got stuck in cars at times we didn't necessarily expect, and we're like, hey. But man, always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for joining us today, and lots of good advice in this.
Thank you so much, man. I'm super excited to be here and grateful for the opportunity.
Adit, you're the man. Also, I can't wait to read Infinite Jest with you. Also, I double can't wait to talk to you about Nassim Taleb. Dude, I just realized this. Check this out. My background on my phone for like the last year now is a picture of Nassim Taleb doing deadlifts.
That's incredible. I didn't know he lifted.
He talks about deadlifts and anti-fragile all the time. Deadlifts are anti-fragile.
I just started it, so I'm gonna
dude, let's talk about it for a long time.
I'm gonna have it done by the time I come to North Carolina, so we can talk about it.
There you go.
Fuck yeah, I'm so pumped.
Yeah.
And then also for anybody listening, Infinite Jest, January 1. Oh my God, you're gonna hate it. It's gonna be amazing. We'll do it together.
I guess I just got signed up for it with David, so
we're gonna do it'll be a group thing, so we'll do it together. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's like it's like hazing. It's if you do it in a group, it's totally acceptable.
It's not so bad. Yeah,
camaraderie. Adit, thanks again, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode about my journey from military to millionaire. If you liked it, be sure to visit FromMilitaryToMillionaire.com/podcast to subscribe to future podcasts. While you're there, we'd love for you to rate the show, give us a review on iTunes. Now get out there and take action.